this is kind of the mission, is really to help U.S. companies come to China and take advantage of everything China has to offer in terms of financial resources, human capital, service companies at a lower cost, and so on, but do it in kind of a simple and safe way, because you saw from Brian, you can get tangled up in your underwear even trying to create a company to begin with in China. So kind of the basics are that the contract is with the ChinaBio LLC, which is a U.S. corporation. We've finished creating one company, a Shanghai domestic company. We're now creating a Suzhou domestic company that we have control over. Obviously, we can't be shareholders because you have to be Chinese citizens, but we have basically contractual control. And you might say, well, this sounds like kind of a crazy idea. The good news is I didn't invent this idea, Baidu did. Probably someone before Baidu, but it's absolutely necessary in the web industry, because no one except a Chinese domestic company can run a website. And that was, Brian was talking about the kind of the prohibited industries. You can't come in as a US company and have a website in China. It's impossible. Actually, we tried. It didn't work. So we run our website in the US, obviously. So Baidu, what they did is created a separate contract company, which is a domestic company owned by Chinese citizens, but controlled contractually by Baidu. So if you buy Baidu stock on the stock exchange, you're not buying the company that runs the website, oddly enough. You're just buying essentially kind of a holding and operating company. So we just took that model with some good legal help and basically applied it to the life science industry. So what that does for the companies that we work with is then you have an easy way to come to China. You can actually operate completely virtually under our umbrella, if you will, and even have access to grant funding and so on. We can work with you to apply for the grants and that kind of thing, although we have to limit that activity. We don't want to appear as though we're just sort of shuffling things through and trying to avoid things in China, but we can help. Or you can do things like set up a JV, and I'll talk about that in a little bit here. But this does give you access to government incentives and funding, and frankly, the China government just likes it better if you're a domestic company. We've been talking to people about getting approvals in China. If you come into China and try and get an approval as a woofie, you're looking at a very long period of time. We know one device company that's been going through the cycle now for 2.5 years, and they told us this week that very excitedly that they finally actually are seeing some movement. And so they may get their approval sometime this year. So it'll only be like a 3.5 year cycle. If you're a Chinese domestic company, the SFDA has a different track, and you move much more quickly. Obviously, there's still obstacles and things to come through. But. So this is kind of an overly simplified, even more simple than Brian's simplified version. But this is a simplified version of kind of how it works. So our clients contract with ChinaBio LLC. We have our domestic company, which is called ReiKe, which basically means Visionary Scientific Enterprise Management Company, if you kind of want to take the literal translation of that. But we're going to operate as ChinaBio Accelerator is our working name. And typically what you could do is either not do a JV and work through us, or we can do a JV together if you need the presence there, and then that gives you the access to what's going on in China. Some of the events, one thing we're involved in, I should just mention, is seed business plan competition. This is a pro bono effort on our part, in fact everybody's part, Roche, McKinsey, and Orbimed. We created a business plan competition to stimulate technologies to come out of the universities and institutes and be commercialized in China. This is a real problem in China. There's a lot of good technologies just sort of sitting on the shelves and it doesn't get commercialized. So Roche, McKinsey, and Orbimed, and if you probably know Roche, I'm sure. McKinsey, you probably know, one of the world's foremost strategic business consulting firms. And Orbimed is actually the largest fund manager in the world dedicated strictly to life science. They manage over $5 billion total in everything that they do. But they have a fund of about, I think it's about 150 million, focused specifically on early stage life science VC investing. So basically they came up with this concept and asked us to help, and we were happy to do that. So we have our last two, we've done a road show kind of all over China now. Our last two events are in Zhangjiang High Tech Park, and we're going to be giving away at least 300,000 renminbi. That's about $50,000, probably a bit more by the time we get to the end. We have a coaching day on March the 2nd, but then the big final awards is on April 23rd. So if you happen to be in Shanghai at that time, it'll be a fun event. And then our investor forums, our next investor forum is at the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park on May 19th and 20th. So if you're forming a company and looking for a place to get in front of some VCs, we can probably help you out there. There's no charge to present at these events, by the way. People say to me often, well, what's your business model? And I scratch my head, well, I'm not quite sure, but I know we're doing good things, so we keep doing it. Hong Kong Science Park is a great place to be located, and what we do in our investor forums is we basically try and bring companies to places where they might like to be, and we bring VCs together with early stage companies that we have pre-vetted. So the VCs like this, and they sort of follow us around China as we do these things to see the companies that we bring. So in Tianjin, we did most recently, we keep thinking eventually we're going to run out of good companies, but the VCs reported back to us that they thought the Tianjin companies were some of the best that we'd have so far. So there continue to be good opportunities in China. This is our partnering forum. I mentioned that a couple of times. Same days as last year, June 23rd and 24th in Suzhou this year. So that's it. Thanks very much.